How's it going, everybody? It's your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And today's we're getting a little meta today. And this was a topic that I wanted to push for because while we were taking a little break, because Jordan is still on recovery, but at least able to sit in the chair, our channel turned 3 years old on March 26th of this year. So
6 days after my surgery.
Our channel turned 3 years old. And on April 24th, our official removal of the records from the Mormon church, we received our letter. So shout out.
If you didn't know, they send you a letter after you petition to have your records removed.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Do they not anymore?
I don't think they do anymore. There's been speculation that they have cut down on sending letters because there are so many to send. I don't know if that is necessarily true. You know, I like to think it's true. Yes, we officially resigned from the Mormon church 3 years ago, recently.
Indeed.
But now that we're getting back on the horse, we're able to do something. So my idea, also kind of inspired by Reverend Fridays, was to react to our first video on YouTube and give you some of the story behind it, because there are kind of a lot of funny, quirky things that I remember about making not only the video, but also the channel that I don't think that we've ever discussed here.
It's like a throwback and a where are they now?
Yeah, really. Where are they now? Well, we're right here right now. So where were they then?
Okay.
We could do that. Let's get things rolling real quick, and we'll do a little bit of a transition for a reaction.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little cringed out going into this, I feel like, a little bit. I don't like watching old things.
No. And it's funny because this one in particular, I probably never watched the footage back. At this point, Jordan had thrown it together. I think at the time we just had iMovie, and you just dropped it into iMovie. I don't even think you cut anything out. And I'm pretty sure at some point or another, if there are any cuts, it's most likely because the iPhone that we were filming on, the storage filled up, and we had to like delete shit really quick.
Yeah,
I don't remember if that's this one or a different one.
We were filming with my iPhone.
But yeah, we were filming on an iPhone, and you know, there's no shame in filming on an iPhone.
You got to start somewhere.
True. Anyway, here's the first one. You will hear a familiar tune right off the bat that I've never wanted to change.
Different intro though. Ah!
It's already really quiet, so there's that.
I'm just I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm so blonde.
Attempt at a YouTube video. We had a lot of requests to start a YouTube, and we kind of realized it allowed us to do more long form content that would usually have to be broken up on TikTok. So we figured that we would just kind of...
That is true. The only reason we got on YouTube was because, and I know everybody's like, people were asking me if I should get on YouTube. Like, that's not what happened here. Like, we legitimately, people were like, you guys should get on YouTube. McKay and I were like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're fine with TikTok, and that's it. And then the more that we did this, the more time it took, the more we were like, you know, it would just, for even ease of technology usage, it would be easier to utilize a platform like YouTube.
Yeah. And Jordan was actually, I was very resistant to starting the YouTube.
I do remember that.
To be completely honest, I didn't want to deal with it. I was like, things on TikTok are good and blah, blah, blah. We were just doing like live streams where we would just like field questions.
Well, we were having like, it was really out of kind of unearthly experience because we were having an insane amount of growth in a short amount of time, and that was not at all what we thought would happen when we got on TikTok. And I know like every influencer says that, like when they blow up, they're like, I never thought this would happen. But I really thought it was just a way that we were going to find a community within like the ex-Mormon kind of space. And it turned into something way more, because the more we did videos, the more we realized that the majority of the people who were watching weren't necessarily ex-Mormons, but were people like many of you who have no background in Mormonism, knew nothing about it, and was simply just interested in it.
Yeah.
Do a little introduction and try to answer some of the more more frequent questions that we
I really didn't even look in the mirror before we sat down to film this today.
You were in your hair growing out phase here also.
This was an awful time.
get on our TikTok lives and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we got here, like McKay said, because of TikTok, and so we sort of went viral.
We did. And it,
Why were you like, went viral?
because I feel like even at the time, even though we had like millions of views on that video, I still didn't feel like it was,
That was
even
viral.
like okay to say that, because it just didn't feel real. And I mean, it was viral because it practically blew up our family for a hot minute. So yes,
Just that.
that is exactly what
I know.
happened.
You almost looked disgusted to like admit that was the case.
I guess maybe that's what I was feeling at the time, is that
I don't know.
I wasn't expecting that.
Either that or more likely just hardcore imposter syndrome.
Oh, 100%.
I guess you could say the last few weeks on TikTok, and we have thousands. We have like, I think as of this point, like 37,000 followers, which is like insane. And one of our videos like went way viral with like 1 million views. And so that's how we got here. So just a quick intro about the two of us. My name is Jordan.
And it may seem stupid to clarify that this far in the video, but we've been on YouTube for 3 years now, and people still don't know our names. When we say it at the beginning of every freaking video, they'll be like, which one said this? Which one's Jordan?
Which one's Jordan? And we say it at the beginning
Every
single
time.
So
Every
if
time.
you have not gotten it yet, there's still time. But we do it every single time.
Come
for a
on
reason.
now.
You'll also notice right in here, if you'll look at the pointer on the screen, you can see the reflection of the ring light in Jordan's eyes, which is basically a staple here on youtube.com/Jordan and McKay.
Yep.
The same ring light that we're still
I was gonna
rocking
say, you
today
can see it right now.
that we got to take product photos of the things that Jordan
For
was
my business years before.
creating and putting on TPT. So shout out.
We live here in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the homegrown, lovely Mormon area. We decided to start this content because we were kind of in a space where we were like feeling kind of isolated by the choice we made to leave the Mormon church.
This feels like a YouTube apology video.
You said I just need to be like sitting on the floor or apologizing for having hair in
Right.
my lipstick or something.
Right. This also, we're sitting on like this overstuffed love seat in Jordan's grandma's house, which normally was in the loft right outside our bedroom, because we lived with her at the time. And we very painstakingly finagled the thing through the door in order to sit on that and make this video.
Yep. And we
while
did that
our
for a
kid-
while.
Yeah, while our kid was playing with Jordan's grandma. So, fun.
And so we had heard that there was a great Exmo community out there. And so we figured, why not share our story?
Yeah, so that was pretty big. I'm McKay, to begin. Both of us grew up in the church, and we got married about 3 years ago. We have a young 7-month-old son.
He was only 7 months old when we filmed this.
And today, when we put him to bed, he was just singing Paper Rings on repeat for like 15 minutes.
Swifties, you'll know.
in Honduras. for 2 years, which is very common of Mormon young men. But we just kind of wanted to share a little bit about the reasons why we left the church. So some of the things when I was younger that I noticed that were kind of odd, and as I've grown, they've become...
I guess you did do a little bit of editing.
I did a little bit.
Jordan also put it together, the original little
Intro?
title screen. Yeah, the intro.
I don't do the editing
Canva.
anymore.
I
McKay
do
does
the
all the
editing.
editing now.
But yeah, that was more, can be attributed to my uneasiness on getting started on YouTube.
Yeah.
more and more inexcusable were the racism that existed in the church, that still exists in its bones from the founding of the church, and the treatment
Facts.
of people who belong to the LGBTQ plus community. Like I said, as I grew older, it became less and less excusable. I was born in the church, and it was kind of ingrained in my blood that those things, it didn't matter,
justified
or
somehow.
were justified, or whatever you want to say. I don't excuse it now. I think that behavior is unacceptable. But it was something that kind of, we say in the community, put on my shelf, and I just kind of forgot about it. But
That's still my hill to die on. My crucifix is staked into that hill, baby. Those two things are just huge. I can't get over those two.
yeah.
We have a lot of people that ask us like how we got to the point where we left, or what was the like first initial thing that started your transition out. And it's kind of hard to pinpoint, because when you're in a faith transition, or when you're starting a faith transition, you don't really know. Like it's hard to pinpoint like a single moment where I was like, oh, like I'm on my way out, because as a member, you're not like ingrained to think that way. And so I would just come across things that didn't sit well with me, and I would then put them on my shelf. I never in a million years I'd imagined that it would be a faith transition that would lead me out of the church. So it's kind of hard to say what started things, but probably one of the biggest things.
And I'll say, at least at this point, like at this juncture when we had started doing YouTube videos, I mean, we had pretty much classified the previous 3 years as a faith crisis. Like, we had pretty much determined that even though it wasn't necessarily explicit like that in our brains, it was enough questioning, enough unsettling, enough discomfort in things. And then we just kind of slowly inched our way to a point where enough was enough, really.
It like such a slow transition to the point where like 6 months before we filmed this video and published it for the world to see, I was working in a job where it was a requirement for me to have a current temple recommend to work at the warehouse where they had all the garments and where they were printing all the church print
literally worked for the
materials and
church.
everything. So like it was so slow and crept up on us where I was like working there. Jordan
You were at
was
BYU
on,
at the time, weren't you?
Yeah,
You were finishing up at BYU.
I was working at BYU, or not working. I was studying BYU Idaho online at the time, and this was my second semester back at it, but my third time going back to school after starting and then stopping to go on a mission and then starting up again and stopping to get married and then starting up again because we had just had a kid and everything like that. So it was very slow, but as soon as our kid was born, it was like everything got sped way the hell up. Like our kid was born, the next month I quit my job, and then that whole time leading up to probably about February was just like, what are we going to do? Like, is this something that we really want? While I was working there, I still needed to get my temple recommend done, and it was the pandemic, and I went and I got my interview with the bishop, and then I couldn't bring myself to go back and get my interview with the stake president to fulfill my thing. So at that point, an audit hadn't come up to where I would lose my job if I didn't get it re-upped, but Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
It was also a very weird time, and even listening to you say some of these things right now, like there's a lot of these things I don't remember because I was in postpartum hell fog at that point, and so there was a lot of like, it's one thing to go through a faith crisis, it's another thing to go through a faith crisis postpartum, like severely postpartum, and also get postpartum psychosis and, you know, all of those things. So our life was just kind of in chaos in a lot of ways at this point. And it's not uncommon, like, not to look at this from a trauma lens because I always do, but thinking about things from a trauma lens, like when people have kids, that's when stuff tends to pop up. Like that's when childhood experiences that you remember start to get triggered again. That's like, it's like I tell people, it's like the speed run for having to heal your own stuff is when you have your own kids, because all that shit comes up. And, you know, having our son, I think, was the thing. If we didn't have him, I don't think we would have. I think we would have eventually left. I don't think we would have gone as quickly as we did.
2020 was a really tumultuous year, not only for us, but for the entire world. So I think it may have been a couple more years after that.
Yep.
But it really, really put things in perspective, having a kid of our own at the time. So
for me was going through the temple. I went through the temple and did the endowment ceremony when I was I 20? Was I 21?
I think so.
I don't remember. But
you were just barely 21 when we got married.
So I was probably 19 then.
You weren't even 21 when we got married.
I wasn't.
You were just 20.
See, my memory is so terrible.
Yeah.
That's when I did that.
So I went through the temple, and I, as a human being, have anxiety. And nobody would tell me what was going on, like what was going to happen in the temple, which is traditional to Mormon people. The stuff that happens in the temple, they say is sacred, and they're not going to share it with you because they promise not to. And so nobody would tell me what to expect. And as a person with anxiety, that just wasn't going to work for me. And so I actually ended up going onto the internet and finding a hidden camera footage of...
I'm pulling the comments right now, or the live chat, depending on when you're seeing this. Is my RBF this bad still? I feel like it's not this bad. Like, it's the lighting or something that just makes it so much fucking worse.
That you look pissed off.
I look like I have total RBF.
I look like a ghost, and so it's the lighting here is just not doing anyone any favors. But I stand by this story because this is how I found out about what happens in the temple, number one. But number two, I didn't want to throw her under the bus at the time. She has since passed on, so I can throw her under the bus now, and she would think it's funny. But the only way that I knew about the temple videos, because I was too terrified as a Mormon to look anything up online. My grandma also has anxiety. And when she went through the temple, she couldn't bear not knowing what was happening. And so she also looked it up on the internet and found the videos that our friend, colleague in the ex-Mormon space, Mike, did hidden footage. And we have videos on that. And she watched that, and that's how she knew what would happen. And so when I was super anxious about it and I told her, she was like, well, you can watch these videos, but like, don't tell your mom I told you this, and never talk about this. And there was plenty of those things, so it was fine. But I watched it, and that like was definitely the beginning. I mean, it did not cement it as much as the temple did, like going in, but even just watching it, I was like, oh, okay.
Ooh.
What are we doing? What have I done? What have I signed on for before I'm even getting married? Because I wanted to be extra Mormon special.
I did nothing of the sort.
You had to, because you went on a mission.
Yeah. I was taking it ultra serious because I was in my college try period.
Yes. Which
was what going on my mission was. So if you ever are like, oh, I wonder if McKay actually tried, I went on a 2-year mission and told people how great the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith are. And I wasn't even sure that I thought that at the time. So.
The endowment ceremony inside the temple. And I watched the most of it, and it was so bizarre and cult-like to me that I honestly thought that there's no way that could be what happens in the temple. Like I thought there would be no, like, I thought somebody made it up, and I had just encountered something totally false. And so I just kind of put it in the back of my mind and not worried about it, and tried to not worry about it. And then when I ended up going through the temple, it was exactly what the video described, which was very unsettling. It's hard to explain. It's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long. There's lots of different things that happen. But overall, the whole feel of it was very unsettling to me. But when you're going through the temple for the first time, you usually have Mormon family members there with you. And so,
man, I'm really surprised that they haven't like streamlined the fucking process at this point. The endowment.
Did they shave
ceremony.
off some time when they changed
They always
it to
shave it off, but
slideshow?
in my opinion, if they want it to be more fucking bearable and not so awful, is just have the whole presentation the first time.
And then you can go to like an amended,
and then
abridged
after
version.
you can just go through bloop bloop bloop. I don't know.
That's a
If they
helpful
wanna
change.
survive,
They're
I
not going
know.
to do that.
That's a helpful change. It's not going to help any of the bad things.
No.
But, you know.
you're like, I was just looking around at the people, like the family members I knew that were with me, and like, I was just like, they're just sitting there and letting this all happen. And nobody's like, I was looking for someone to like acknowledge the fact that it was bizarre. I was looking for somebody else to be like, yeah, it's weird, you know, and nothing. Like my whole, like a bunch of family members were there, and everybody was just smiling and having a great time. And so I felt like the odd one out. And at the beginning of the ceremony, they tell you that if you're not ready to make these promises or covenants to God, that you can leave. But they say this, and then the room is silent, and you're sitting in like a theater type style room. And when you're going to the temple for the first time, they put you at the front. So you're like in the very, like, here's the front, and then there's a bunch of people seated behind you. And so if I were to get up and leave, I would have to walk past not only all of my family members, but all the other patrons and people that were in the temple that day. And I did not even know, like, where I would go if I were to walk away. Like, the expectation is that you continue. So yes, they tell you you can leave, but I have never heard of anybody walking out, personally.
I was kind of in the same boat.
It's all by design. It's a tactic that they still use to this day. Like, they still seat you in the front. You're there with all your family members. There's other random patrons in the room, like up to, like 50, 100 people in there that you possibly don't know. And it's not a conducive environment to, like, we're going to sit with you in the hallway and talk about what you're about to do before you go in there. And now that you know that, do you want to go in? Like, if I were to make Mormonism more palatable in that sense, like, it would be the prioritization of informed consent when it comes to the endowment ceremony. And, there's going to be Mormons in the comments that are like, if you just read about it in the fucking book, I'll tell you. But that's not what I'm talking about. Like, true understanding and consent about what I'm about to do, what's about to happen, what I'm about to wear, the motions I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would need to know.
That question should be answered far before you even get to there that day. It should be answered in the fucking temple prep class, honestly.
Because there is a temple prep class, but they don't cover any of this stuff, so you're not learning anything about what's actually going to happen to you while you're there. And so, and again, this is like one of the cultiest things that the Mormon church does, and so they're going to keep this one locked down. Like, there's a reason why content with us wearing ceremonial clothing or other ex-Mormons wearing it goes viral. There's a reason it does numbers, because it's supposed to, it's secret. Like, they keep it locked down. It's supposed to be a secret, and so when other people see it, it's like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Well, and when they see it, it's shocking.
Yes, it's like deeply offensive to many Mormons, which I won't apologize for anything I've done up to this point, because I don't feel like I need to, because they're not secret or sacred to me. It's a stupid piece of clothing that they mass produce and wear in a very bizarre ceremony that requires you to basically sacrifice your life to the Mormon church. But nonetheless, I still feel
sacrifice,
the same.
Consecrate.
Whatever.
I remember this is the
same. It is a sacrifice. It is suffering. It's sacrificing my body, my mental health, my pain, all of these things.
No doubt. I'm being silly. But this is the cause that especially in like recent news down in Texas and in the Lone Mountain area of Las Vegas, that Mormons are coming out in droves to their city council meetings to like protest the fact that the city doesn't want them to put a giant fucking steeple on the temples that they have planned over this. Like, I understand, I'm very far removed from the subject at this point, but I can't imagine how embarrassing it would be.
It just goes to show how cosmetic it is.
Yeah. I would have never been like, oh yeah, it has to have a fucking steeple on it.
Like, just get rid of the fucking steeple.
I
It's not a big
understand.
deal.
Yeah. It's very transparent that this is just a billboard.
Literally.
For your presence.
I had always kind of been told, not exactly what happens in the temple, but how important it is. So even when these things were happening and I thought it was very strange, I was rationalizing that it's what everybody, including God, wanted me to do. And at the time, I was only a few weeks out from leaving on my mission to go to Honduras. So if I were to not go through with it, then I would not be leaving to go on my mission, and there would be a lot of social repercussions coming and stemming from that.
Well, we both went through the temple and the endowments and got our garments that you wear and all of that not way before, but before we got married. He was leaving on a mission. I got mine I think a year before you came back. And so we were not really connected at the time. We had met in high school, but we didn't date in high school. We were just teenage rebel friends in high school.
Teenage rebel friends.
It's putting it nicely.
Rambunctious.
Yeah.
And so we, despite our awkward feelings about the endowment, they typically tell you that you struggle with it or you're not understanding it because you're not going enough. And so they tell you to go and go and go. And like, the more you go, the more will be revealed to you. And I went multiple times and that was not my experience. It doesn't become any less cult-like. I didn't gain any more understanding. People say it's all about symbolism. And yes, I understand that most of it is about symbolism, but that doesn't take away the extreme bizarre and cult-likeness of it all. And so he went and finished his mission. I got endowed, went to the temple, stayed in the church, and then we reconnected when he came back from his mission.
Reconnected.
Dating.
Jordan slid into my DMs on Twitter.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And I gave her my number instantly.
It's true, you did. All I said, I didn't go in with any intention.
I may have, because she was like, oh, because her friend was interested in me. That has probably come up before.
That's like a whole other story.
But anyway, I think I even had to return the message and be like, oh, I'm getting a phone. Maybe I already had the phone.
I think you did by that point because it was a few days after my birthday.
No, we were already texting about your birthday.
Oh, we were texting my birthday. It was a few days before my birthday. Right.
So I got home on like the 3rd or the 4th of March, and Jordan's birthday was on the 7th. Mm-hmm. Anywho.
Started dating.
Lore.
Got engaged.
The lore.
We were both active in the church at the time, and we got married in the Salt Lake Temple in January 2018. Mm-hmm. And like the start of our marriage, I feel like was kind of ironically, the unraveling of our faith from that point forward.
Yeah, from then on, church attendance was very sporadic, to say the least. Maybe a handful of times a year we would go, until last year when the pandemic started and everything closed down. It was we haven't returned to the endowment ceremony since probably August of 2018, and our experience is probably pretty mild.
Never ever did. We went to do that because my sister was leaving on her mission, but we never did the endowment together other than that one time. Mm-mm. We did other stuff. So long and so boring.
I hated it. There's too much anxiety.
It's crazy because there are people who will go out and make a date of going to the temple or whatever, but during that 2 hours, you're not even spending time together. Sitting next to each other. You're going to be on opposite sides of the room.
It's gendered, so you're not even close. Like, he's on the opposite side of like the auditorium, basically.
And I'm sure that people will probably be like, oh, I feel more spiritually connected. Well, I want to be next to my wife. I want to hang out with her.
I mean, if you're going on a date,
The best place to do that is just in bed watching TV, honestly. Much better than the shitty movie that they show at the temple.
yeah.
And
And
you
I
have to
mean,
sit
we
apart.
didn't, this time wasn't without like criticism, especially for my family, because while I was finishing up college, we primarily lived with family members. We lived in an apartment for a while on our own, but we didn't go, and it would be a very contentious topic among my family specifically that we weren't going. And so it was not, if anything, my family probably saw it coming, if I were to guess.
Yeah, probably.
The only two that I talked to, one of them's dead and the other one's dead to me. And so it's not like I can really ask anymore. But I would imagine...
Not that we care.
Not that I care. But I would imagine, like, if I asked my mom from her perspective, it would be like, yeah, you weren't going. And this was like a slow burn, versus us felt like by the time we got to the point where we officially left and removed our records, it was just kind of a smack in the face. And we were feeling so spun out by the whole thing. But, like, there were wheels turning.
Basically,
We just
the whole
didn't
time.
see it at the time.
Our faith died with Tommy Monson.
Probably
watched his
pretty
funeral.
mild. They've
True.
changed
That was the week
many
that we
things
got
about
married.
Yes.
The endowment ceremony over the years, and we definitely got the blandest one, but the cracks were already starting to form at that point, and it was kind of concerning to us.
Well, it wasn't like each other. It wasn't like us contributing like to each other's faith crisis or anything. Like, it wasn't anything like that. It was just once we were married, we both realized how volatile of a position we were in with the church, and we didn't really recognize it before until we got married. And then we both realized that we weren't as solid in the faith as we thought that we were. Just one aspect of what caused us to leave the church. And so when we get...
How much later did we...
The lighting definitely changed.
How did it
so
change so much?
Maybe our
that
kid
general
woke up.
question frequently in lives and on TikTok that it's kind of hard to answer.
I feel like this was during the day. Maybe it
It was
wasn't. I
probably
can't
when he
remember.
was napping and we filmed it in between.
Oh, yeah, it probably was. I
And
didn't
we're like,
even
we'll
think of
finish
that.
it later.
Yeah. I almost want to disagree with you on this one, because I don't think that church attendance was not there, but I feel like we were still like, maybe not devout or whatever, but we were clinging to what we believed at the time.
Yeah.
Even though it was difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it was like we were just going through the motions or whatever. It
No.
was more like we were in a really long reasoning with our doubts period, and it was just not
was
so
lots of-
apparent to us.
Yeah. I mean, there was lots of studying. There was lots of, we need to be better about this. There was lots of...
Oh yeah, every year it was like, we need to do scripture study. We need to read the scriptures and everything like that, or we need to have nightly prayer, whatever. So we were always putting in the effort, but yeah.
It's kind of hard to answer because it's so multifaceted and it's such a long response. Like, we've only discussed really one aspect of it here, and we've already taken up like
10 minutes.
10 minutes of your time. And so this video was just to focus on kind of when the cracks started to form and kind of the big things. So we just kind of started there. There will obviously be more things to come, but essentially this is what led us down like the path to
The rabbit hole.
and down off the covenant path, as they would say.
And to think that I felt bad about taking up 12 minutes of your time when we put an hour and a half deep dives out now. Can you even imagine?
That is not even scratching the surface, because we also did like a 5-hour live stream when they
That's
sentenced Jody and Ruby.
That's true. That is true. That was a mind-blowing time.
That was crazy. Anyway,
would say to
let's hear Jordan out.
leaving the Mormon church.
If you would like to know more about our story, we're planning on posting weekly, probably on Fridays, just sharing more in-depth stories about how we got to the point that we're in right now. So If you'd like to follow along with us, subscribe. You can check out our TikTok. We'll link it in the description. And thank you for watching.
How do we cut it off too soon?
Whoops.
What a time.
See, we didn't know at all what the fuck we were doing, so that's always fun.
No, we did not.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is.
I mean, it's interesting to think about, like, where, like, what has happened even since then. Because I think about the beginnings of, like, our formal way out where we announced it to everyone and we, you know, talked about it on TikTok and all those things. And I think about that in comparison to now, and it just seems like worlds away from where we were in, like, every single aspect. Like, in where we lived. Like, we don't even live in Utah anymore. Now we live in Colorado. Like, we were living with family members. Now we actually own a home. I was starting grad school. Now
Not that point.
I was getting ready to start grad school.
Oh, yeah, because in the fall is when you started officially.
Yep. So I was getting ready to start grad school, and now I have my MSW, and I'm an associate licensed therapist. And so and our kid is way older.
I was a stay-at-home dad to a 7-month-old, and now I'm a stay-at-home dad to almost 4-year-old.
Yeah, and YouTube was just like something we were trying very not with a lot of effort to get going, and now it is like a fundamental part of our lives at this point. And some of you have been around since then, which we appreciate. There are names and usernames that we see and recognize over the 3 years that we've been doing this, which we deeply appreciate. And the, like, connections that we've made along the way, our Mormon Stories interview, like our Funny Fridays videos.
Yeah. Stuff that's going to come down the pike
soon
now because of it.
That we can't even talk about. Just like worlds away, and like your skills as far as editing and just overall. And we've even, like, TikTok used to be our bread and butter in the beginning, and now we've even moved away from TikTok. Like, we rarely post on there anymore. It's mainly just kind of marketing for our channel at this point. Well,
now TikTok is
and it's going
not
away,
gonna be
so
around for much longer, which is really disappointing because TikTok was really the nexus of where we began.
Yeah.
And we moved over to here, and now it's just kind of going to fade away, which is a shame. It kind of also just kind of fizzled because all of the people that we were doing stuff with at the time and had formed a great community around kind of also just faded away on TikTok.
None of them make content anymore. Nuance Ho still does.
Well, I mean, on TikTok, then, like, Ex-Molex and Ex-Mormon Mindy and... Oh, Sherelle and Adam. I can't remember what they're... all those people. Our favorite, Kylene. We haven't forgot about Kylene.
One of the most iconic TikToks of the time.
Iconic.
There was really something about what was happening in 2020 with TikTok in 2021 when all of this was happening. Like, it was just a fascinating time for ex-Mormonism because the church was desperately trying to control the narrative on TikTok. Nothing was working. They would put influencers on there, and they would just get absolutely bombarded. Roasted. And they would leave the app. Like, it was an interesting time, and I feel like I told McKay the other day, I don't, like, you know, you might find it funny, but I don't watch ex-Mormon content.
Almost at all.
Like, almost at all. And so I don't, like, I see, you know, I follow, like, Mormon Stories and stuff, so I'll see if there's, like, a repetitive person that's, like, up and coming or something. But overall, I feel like on TikTok now there's been kind of this, like, almost revival of, like, intro to Mormonism type content and, like, new people that I see that are, like, wearing the garments and talking about them. And, like, it's kind of, like... It's like our time in that TikTok almost. Sphere has, like, dawned and a new era kind of has begun, which we're happy to see. And I mean, our content isn't solely focused on Mormonism either. I think when we started, we imagined that we would just be talking about Mormon related things. But as we branched out and we saw, like, the Christian influencers and the evangelical influencers, like Girl Defined,
and overlap and stuff,
and all of those things, like, it was like, oh, this is, like, we can speak to this because we've been indoctrinated, we've been conditioned, we've been brainwashed, we've been on the other side of this just with a different religion. And so I don't think I ever imagined that we would also be making content about other things or influencers. Like the influencer bit doesn't surprise me because that's what we got asked about the most. And so covering influencers and influencer trends doesn't surprise me. I think that will stay consistent with us for forever at this point.
Yeah.
But it is a very interesting, like, then to now kind of transition that's happened. Like, I've been no contact with my family members for years now.
Really, that time was like when it started.
That time was when everything exploded. And our relationship during a lot of stuff on when our channel was initially forming and when all the TikTok stuff was happening, when his parents found out about it, and our relationship wasn't great there for a while. And now we live very close to them and our relationship with them is great. And so truly, I think everything has transformed. Like, it's kind of wild to look at. I don't think there's really a single area of our life that hasn't been transformed since that time.
And my hair has gotten so much
longer. Your hair has gotten longer. I'm not blonde anymore. Like,
it's crazy.
I had one tattoo at the time. Now I have.
I had none at the time. I don't
4.
think I had any. I didn't.
You didn't have any at the time.
At that point.
Now you have.
I have 4. I want more, but we have a house.
We have a mortgage. Shit's expensive.
I have other expenses right now.
So really, just everything has changed.
Seriously. And I mean, for a lot of people, that the fire kind of dies out, especially when it comes to the anger that they have and finding out all these things about the Mormon church that they didn't know and so forth. And I don't know. I feel like that has never gone away from me. Every day I see something new that just reminds me that I will never, ever be okay with how the church is and the things that it does and has done in the past and on into eternity until it files for bankruptcy and completely dissolves. So,
which I don't think will happen in our lifetime, unfortunately.
Yeah. But a man can dream, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's totally fair for people who make content, who make ex-Mormon content, to step away, because I think for a lot of people, content creation is part of like processing and grieving like the church dynamic and everything that happened there. And so a lot of people like do their grieving, they do that stuff, and then they feel okay and they're ready to move on and make other content. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I feel fine being a hater for life. That's fine by me. I don't care.
Our comment section, that's one that really hasn't changed much. I'll say that. And now when this video came out, I'm sure we had like basically no subscribers at the time. And now I just looked earlier today and we're almost at 90. And so we're 10,000 away from 100K, which is crazy considering how much time and effort and hard work has been put into our channel since the beginning. And I wish this was our job and we didn't have to do anything else and we had ample childcare and a village to help in supporting raising a family. And but I am a therapist full time, and I also run my other business on the side, and I am a mom and he is a dad. And so could it be bigger? Probably. But circumstances.
I like where we are, honestly.
Circumstances have us right where we are right now, which I think is okay. It's kind of crazy to think that we're almost at 100,000. So.
All right.
That's a big honor for us considering where we started.
All right. Yeah, this one, this was 0 subscribers right here. Boom. And now we're almost to 90 today. So.
And that's all because of you.
Because of you, amazing,
viewers
beautiful
like you.
People. We love you. And you keep us able to do the stuff that we want to do and able to do deep dives on these stupid influencers that have absolutely poisoned my algorithms.
Even if it poisons my brain. I know this was a bit of a shift in because we just started that new series. I know this is like a derailment from that series for a moment, but we plan on getting back to that series next week, which is our Christian influencer trends, Mormon influencer trends, evangelical influencer trends, all the above. And so on social media particularly, so we'll be returning to that next week. But this was an interesting, fun idea to just do something a little different. So
just check it out. Anyway, I'll do my little rundown like I already did 3 years ago, but you were able to watch it. If you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button so you can see more, and you can hit the bell, get notifications when we go live or when we post a new video. There's a live stream or a premiere going on. If you'd like to support us more, you can hit the join. Is it a join or become a member button that's right next to it? I don't even know. Honestly, I forget. Anyway, you can hit that. You get a lot of cool perks. You get access to exclusive content. Literally, I don't know when it's going up, but tonight we're going to be filming a cooking video. So if you're interested in that sort of content, you can check it out. You can also join Patreon if that is your flavor. You get the same amount of content and everything. YouTube has a couple little extra special things that are just for YouTube. So if you want those things, you can become a member and get those extra little bonuses. Sorry, Patreon. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Jordan McKay on both of those.
Instagram, we post polls and things of like upcoming content and like voting on what McKay's going to cook and things of that nature. So if you want to have input or have updates on what we're filming, or if we change dates on things, like I always post on stories, so you'll always be updated.
And then we also have a super cool, awesome Discord server that you can join. The link is in the description down below for the invite. Awesome Never Mormons, ex-Mormons, all the in-between. And yeah, it's just a good time. There are our mods post announcements and things in there too. So super helpful. Anyway, we love you. It's been a long and wonderful ride, and we look forward to a lot more of a long and wonderful ride in the future with all of you. And we will see you next time.